A really powerful feature of Staff.wiki is the checklists. Any wiki article can incorporate checklists. These can be useful to track your organization's procedures as they're executed. They can also be used to implement simple workflow, transferring and requesting information from one user to another through custom forms and email. You can add checklists to your page simply by clicking the checklist button in the text editor when inserting or updating articles. This button can add a blank checklist entry or convert selected text. There is no limit to how many checklist entries you can add to a page. When published, this will appear as a link that, once clicked, will mark that checklist entry as complete. It will first pop up a form to the user where they can enter in some notes, a value, or fill out a form. The details of what was entered will appear in the page next to the complete checklist entry. By default, all checklist entries are assigned to the user who started the checklist. However, you can override that and have different checklist entries assigned to different people. To do this, while you're editing the article, hover your cursor over the checklist entry and click Form Editor. In there you can select who it's assigned to. You can also add a form to the checklist entry, which we'll discuss later in the video. The first time a checklist entry is clicked, it will create the tasks for that user and assign the first entry to you. It will then look something like this to indicate it has been started. Note that the article in the contents is also highlighted in red, and there is a red number in the tab to also indicate that there is an assignment. It'll also appear on the Dashboard tab. And, if the user has reminders set up on their user profile, they'll also get a daily reminder about the checklist entry. These all serve to make sure that assigned checklist entries are never missed or forgotten about. If one of the checklist entries is assigned to a different user, then they will be emailed with a link for the checklist page. Even if the page is set to private, the assigned user will still see the checklist, so they can add their own contribution. The item assigned to them will show up as red. They will see the checklist in progress until it is complete, but they will also see links to view past checklists that have been completed, or to start a new checklist themselves. Once the checklist is complete, a message will be displayed at the top of the page with a link to send the checklist to department participants for review. A few seconds after the checklist is complete, the page will go back to being an incomplete checklist, ready to start again. Next, we'll make our checklist a bit more interesting by adding forms. Checklist entries can be used to collect information from the user it is assigned to. By default, all checklist entries prompt for the user to enter in notes, where they can enter in any kind of free text. But you can also create more sophisticated forms. To do this, when editing the page, hover your cursor over the checklist entry and click the Form Editor button. This will bring up a form where you can enter in additional information about the checklist entry. Here, you can add fields to your form by clicking the plus form field link. This provides an area where you can put in the name of the field, the type of the field, and also specify whether the field is required for the user to fill out or optional. Whatever fields you list here will become a form when the user clicks the checklist entry. Information they provide in that form will be recorded against the completed task and sent to each user in the checklist. That is, if there are other users involved. This can be a great way to create simple workflow and automate your organization's standard operating procedures. When adding form fields, the type list should mostly be pretty self-explanatory. The user's type produces a drop-down list where you can select a user. Both the drop-down and radio buttons option presents the user with a choice to select from. The options are provided here, each separated by a pipe character which looks like a vertical bar. This is what the form will look like once you commit the page and click the checklist entry with the form. As you can see, the form is laid out automatically, based on the order of the fields you added. This concludes our video on adding checklists, workflow, and forms to your procedures, using staff.wiki.